Hi guys, this is Josh from CryptOx, and we're very, very happy to be joined today by Charles Stanton, who is the CMO of Bondly, which is a new NFT platform. They're specializing in infrastructure for the media and entertainment economy, and we're sure we're going to learn a lot today. So thank you for joining us, Charles.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Just to get started, could you please give us a bit of a deep dive into your background and career and why you got into crypto, how you got into crypto?
Yeah, of course. It's I think like many people in this sector, my background is obviously in traditional areas of marketing. So obviously, marketing is my specialism as CMO, and I started off my career predominantly in social media. So I've always been interested in kind of new and emerging channels and kind of community engagement platforms, and developed my career in social media and digital marketing. And so more recently, head of digital marketing for Into, which is a retail group in the UK. But before that, was heading up social media in, for example, the National Lottery and Bupa and British Gas, and then more recently, head of social at KPMG. And I got into crypto actually around the time of the first lockdown in March 2020. Funny story, like many people, I had a travel card loan actually I'd taken out. And I realized I wouldn't need my travel card because I was working from home. So I essentially got a refund. I thought, well, where can I put, I think it was like about £1,200 or so. I got interested in cryptocurrency and invested in a few. And that's where it all started. And I realized the potential of the space and was following it quite avidly. And then NFTs, were talked about a lot. And I really started to passionately follow new projects in the NFT space because I really believed in the technology. And Bondly at the time were just launching in November 2020. And I was actually an early investor in the project and followed it really avidly because they were doing something really quite different to most with NFTs. And they were looking at actually how does NFT technology, how can it be utilized to provide utility? It's not just about providing media like a JPEG or a video or a file or whatever it might be. It's actually what can this technology do? What can proof of ownership do? And when a role emerged in Bondly in marketing, I snapped the hand off basically to be part of it. So I quit my job at KPMG within a few months and dived into this world with both feet. So just obviously it started with a passion in crypto, and I think what you quickly realize is once you really dived in, there's a lot of opportunities.
So you went from effectively one of the most traditional companies, sort of traditional finance, KPMG in the world, to one of the most sort of frontier level companies you could find.
Yeah.
What is it that appeals to you on a macro level? Because obviously, when you choose a new company, you have to look at the industry and see is there future for this. What is it about blockchain and NFTs that appeals to you on a macro level?
Yeah, that one that's really interesting. Actually, you're absolutely right. I mean, for me. During my time at KPMG, great company, by the way, certainly wouldn't knock it, and fantastic career development opportunities. But for me, I was looking at the way in which Web3 and the development of Web3 was going to revolutionize everything. Frankly, it's such a disruptive technology. And once I started to understand more about the power of it, I think people often associate blockchain with cryptocurrency, and they are two different things. Now, cryptocurrency is obviously a medium on blockchain. Like obviously cryptocurrencies are a way of interacting with the blockchain, etc. But blockchain technology itself and the idea of a distributed ledger, that brings about such incredible opportunities to disrupt everything. So, and NFTs as well on top of that. So, for example, insurance, right, is a great example. Imagine a situation, this is happening now, of course, where you have an insurance company where all the policies are underwritten by the community, and they get a share of the premiums for that insurance. So if you take out a policy, those who help underwrite that policy will receive a share of the premiums. The platform takes a very small cut because all the risk is distributed across the community, and that policy can actually be an NFT. So you effectively, once you have a policy, you have an NFT saying that you have agreed on a policy, and that policy is all trustless. So in other words, it's based on a smart contract, and if the conditions of that smart contract are met, then you get a payout. So if you, for example, get hacked, and your policy says that you are covered for that hack, essentially it's almost automated. The community will vote on whether or not to pay out in that policy, and assuming that it's met the criteria they should do. And it completely eliminates the need for a middleman, or for a kind of a entity like an insurance company who obviously takes huge profits and has huge overheads, and often aren't necessarily as fair as a community might be. So that's just one example. There's so many of them. And I think with me and NFTs, I saw the opportunity in this proof of ownership, and how proof of ownership could be applied to endless amounts of different sort of things. So, for example, when you go into the metaverse, the idea of owning objects in a metaverse context is really appealing. And gaming, of course, huge opportunities for NFTs to kind of go cross-platform. If I own a sword in Fortnite, why can't I then use that sword in other platforms and other games or other ways? Or can that sword be actually used as a means of gaining access to exclusive communities, again, outside of the platform? It's almost a no-brainer, actually. And I think the more that people look into NFTs and look beyond the kind of stigma around it just being a JPEG, going into the technology, there's not many people who don't see the potential of it.
So obviously they're still quite early in their adoption, and it's mainly the art world that's been the first one in, probably because of the lower barriers to entry and the sort of less utility that art has in the first place. But would you say that would, post gaming, we might see the tokenization of assets more broadly, for example, like real estate or stocks?
This is happening. It's already happening. Absolutely. And I think that's, again, really great insight. I mean, obviously NFTs and art go hand in hand, because the whole point of an NFT is that it's a proof of ownership, and therefore, you can only have one of that particular thing. So in the past, it wasn't really possible to sell digital art because it could literally be copied. It would be no different to the original in any way, except for maybe even the file name. But whereas with NFTs, you're talking about something that is unique and is confirmed as unique by a network. So, it is yours. And obviously that can then, but for me, that's why utility has always been such a big factor, because you can still, as everyone knows, you can still right click and copy, an image from an NFT. So if you're looking at NFT as just that image, then you're kind of missing the big picture. Yeah. And I think, it certainly it has applications well beyond just art. I think for me, what gets really interesting is when you look into things like licensing for music. I could buy a record or CD, or not a CD anymore, an MP3, and yes, I own it, but I don't actually own it. Right? I can play it whenever I want. I don't need the internet. I don't have to be on Spotify to play it. But imagine a situation where I buy that track and I am actually a part of, let's say 100 people who own the license for that. And actually I have the ability to license that music out to other people for use. Or it's an exclusive track that only I own and I'm allowed to play, in effect. That gets really interesting. And I think that's where, again, you think about the music industry and how disruptive this will be, because artists are at the mercy of record labels to a large extent. But imagine a situation where you could quite literally, sell your music in a way that's, again, trustless and democratized. And it's really intriguing. And then the cost models, are favorable as well. So the margins are great for musicians. So that's one of the reasons why we've had a lot of success with artists like Lewis Capaldi, for example, with his Big Fat Sexy NFT collection. We have a huge number of music artists we'll be releasing over the coming weeks as well. So we've got some really exciting collaborations coming up.
So for those of us who might, or for those of our listeners who might not be as familiar with what you're doing with Bondly, could you give us more of an insight into what the concept is behind Bondly and what it is that you're doing in both terms, in both the short term and what your long term goals might be?
Yeah, of course. So Bondly started out as predominantly, essentially the idea of bringing utility to NFTs. And we were one of the first to release. We actually released the first music NFT album with Pelike. So that was before Blau even released his record. We'd already gone through the process of releasing ours. We had the first major celebrity partnership with Logan Paul, where we released, an NFT with Logan back in, I think it's early February, about this time last year, actually. we've evolved since then to focus far more on technology, the technology behind NFTs, and with our partnership with Animoca, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. In terms of where Bondly is going, we've really refined kind of our approach, and we're now much more focused around applications of NFT technology in different sectors. So, for example, we are absolutely still committed to kind of celebrity collaborations and kind of collectibles. So, collectibles is a huge kind of growth area in the NFT space, and the ability to own things that bring you closer to creators, whether those are musicians or artists or games or whatever it might be. The metaverse, obviously a huge growth opportunity for us. So we've actually just recently launched a project called Metaprints, which is all about bringing mainstream brands into the metaverse. And we have a unique relationship through Animoca Brands, whereby we have partnerships with a number of different metaverses. So we effectively become a gateway for brands to get onto these metaverse platforms in a kind of a really cost-effective way. We have PokerPet, so that's our GameFi project. So very much focused around the sort of play-to-earn economy and ownership of these different kind of pets, kind of almost cute, kind of almost Pokemon-esque characters. We actually have Doug Ferguson, who used to be really senior in Pokemon. He was there for, I think, 16, 17 years as senior vice president of products. So he was actually, instrumental in launching the card game, for example. So a really important part of Pokemon. So he's actually the brains behind PokerPets. And that project is a great example as well of the kind of thing we're doing. So, but essentially going forwards, we're perfectly positioned to kind of capitalize on this kind of the growing technologies within the NFT space, and bringing out kind of new projects. So effectively, Bondly is in itself almost like an incubator for fantastic kind of NFT projects that are utilizing some of the sort of best technology in the space, and kind of capitalizing on the opportunities to kind of grow audiences, mainstream audiences in NFTs.
So you mentioned the Animoca Brands partnership, which is fascinating for me, especially from the metaverse angle, because they have such a broad influence and a broad network effect. As soon as you hear Animoca Brands, if you know about NFTs or play to earn or GameFi, you know that they're sort of the big boys. And they're the ones who sort of call the shots with this sort of thing. So what does that entail, and how did this partnership come to being?
Yeah, so we've been in discussions with Animoca for many months, and after the summer, we opened up conversations with them again. There seemed to be a lot of synergy between kind of their objectives and their ambitions and ours. They're very much focused on opening up the metaverse to everybody. And of course, NFTs are the gateway to that. I mean, there's essentially, you can't really have a metaverse concept without NFTs, because you need proof of ownership. Like how does one own something in a metaverse, whether that's land or property or clothing or an avatar, without NFTs? There's no way of doing that. So actually, people will say, well, there's been metaverses before. I think about Second Life and other things like that. But the issue is that in the past, there was no way of really truly owning something. It was all within the platform, as opposed to being something that can be removed from that platform and owned outright. So for us, it just made a lot of sense. And as you mentioned, they've got a huge degree of influence in the space. So the opportunities to utilize their network, that's where Metaprints came about. We were able to, they own the Sandbox, the biggest metaverse project out there at the moment, and rightly so. It's a fantastic project. Actually, one of the founders of Sandbox, Sebastian, is actually an advisor for Bondly. So we already had that relationship, but now we officially have unique access to the Sandbox as well as other metaverse platforms, TBA, and obviously that's led to the opportunity with Metaprint. And there's such high barriers to entry for other projects looking to replicate that model, because they haven't got the relationship with these platforms. So it was a really great opportunity for us. And kind of going forward, we're going to be announcing more details about what this partnership with Animoca looks like in reality for our token holders and for our community. But it's so exciting, and you want a project that, I mean, Animoca themselves have recently announced another raise that values them at about $5 billion. Incredible growth, even in a few months. It was only a few months ago they were valued at $2 billion. And they've had investment from Samsung, the Winklevoss twins, and also Ubisoft. So you think about the potential of gaming. They've got a lot of big backers, and so by proxy, so do we, and we're really excited about that opportunity. So it's a really it's a fitting partnership in many ways.
Yeah, it definitely seems that GameFi and play to earn are very much at the forefront of people's minds. Even people who probably haven't played video games for about a decade.
Yeah.
You see with like Microsoft acquiring Activision, Ubisoft with Tezos and all that sort of thing. And I think especially for a lot of students who might be more hardworking than I am, probably haven't played video games for a while as well. It's kind of hard to conceptualize this whole idea of ownership within a video game.
Yeah.
But I can assure anyone who's skeptical that whether you're playing FIFA or Minecraft or Call of Duty or whatever it is, or Fortnite, you don't own any of the assets. It's just the centralized platform allows you to use them whilst you're on the game. You might buy in-game assets, but you're not really owning them. You're just loaning them. But that's
actually on that, Josh. One of the use cases that I think it makes so much sense is, imagine. Let's take Final Fantasy as an example. You play a game like Final Fantasy, and you build your character up over months, weeks, months, years, maybe, to a certain level. Imagine a situation where you could sell that character with all the attributes, all the weapons, all the power-ups and skills and everything else that character has. You could actually, trade that character on an open market as an NFT. And the person who owns that would then be able to just literally jump in the game and play as that character. It's incredible transfer of value. Like, you actually, in a sense, that's a way of play to earn, but through sort of building up skills, and essentially you're selling your time. Obviously, normal play to earn is around, like, for example, earning tokens for certain actions within a game or whatever. But it goes well beyond that. The ability to really kind of own aspects of your gameplay is just that is really incredible to me. And you also look at what's happening with Axie Infinity in Indonesia, and a lot of sort of developing nations. You can earn more than a good salary for that nation. I mean, we're talking about, even if it was, say, $5,000 a year, that's for a moderate level of gameplay. That's more than you can earn through a sort of a lower level job in a developing country. So it's a great opportunity for these nations to find another source of income just from playing this fantastic game. And that's just one particular game. I honestly think a lot of the growth we see in play to earn will come from developing nations seizing the opportunity to actually make a living wage out of it.
I suppose that ties in as well to sort of use cases and what blockchain does with removing the middleman more broadly, because in the UK or the US, sure, financial services, they take maybe 1% cut or whatever it might be. And that's, people see that as acceptable, even though they're taking billions or trillions without adding as much value as you might expect them to, or potentially even removing value, depending on how you look at it. But it seems to be often the case that it's developing countries which are highlighted as places where crypto could really make an impact. You've got sort of Latin America with El Salvador adopting Bitcoin and the fluctuations in currency there, or you have examples with Africa and corruption, or, like you just said, parts of East Asia with play to earn. What would you say are the trends that we're most likely to see in crypto, in blockchain, in a broad sense, both sort of macro and micro? What do you think we should expect in the years to come?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I mean, there's many areas. I think one of the areas I think is often overlooked because it's not quite as sexy is actually when you think about the use of cryptocurrency in third world countries and what that can offer those communities. So I'm, as you know, Bondly are partnered with IOHK, who are the company behind Cardano, and we are providing the official NFT bridge, so between Cardano and Ethereum, and we're working with M Labs on that one, who are a well-known developer in that space. Cardano, what they're doing over in Africa is incredible. Their vision is about democratizing finance for for people who have no options, in regards to finance. If you think about, what it takes to have a bank account, you need to have an ID. Well, some people in those nations don't have identities because they're not just given out. There's no easy way of getting one. So how do you get access to a loan, to buy a house? How do you get access to, basic levels of financial services? And the answer is you can't. So things like cryptocurrency will provide those people, with immense opportunities. And I think that's a space that I think is often overlooked. You think about the kind of demographics over there. Now, you have to forgive me, I can't remember the exact stat, but a huge percentage of the population in Africa are under the age of 30. It was something incredible, like 60% or something along those lines. Again, forgive me for misquoting, but it was quite surprising. And you think about adoption and what it would take for a country to adopt an entirely new cryptocurrency based infrastructure. Well, they'd have to have a lack of infrastructure in the first place, because you don't need to destroy the legacy systems to implement the new ones. Well, here's your opportunity then to prove the value of cryptocurrency and blockchain. So that's really exciting to me. So I think that's something we'll see over the coming years is actually these developing nations really accelerating and probably surpassing developed nations in regards to cryptocurrency adoption and use, and especially in the world of, for example, DeFi and any decentralized finance products. So that's one thing. Obviously, gaming is going to be massive. I think that's going to be the first major awakening for the world. Is going to be the kind of blockchain and gaming. It's the ability through NFTs to own aspects of your gameplay, but also the play to earn economy. Why would you play Fortnite when you could play Gears of War and actually earn for that gameplay? Well, very quickly those other games are going to have to catch up, and before you know it, that becomes a concept that's synonymous with gaming, is a sense of like value transition, value transaction, I should say. So what value do I gain from playing this game, and how does that economy kind of fuel gameplay? That's going to be absolutely massive. The metaverse space, think about the future of the internet, and this really excites me because I understand and I appreciate the accusations that the metaverse space is really underdeveloped. I mean, there is no metaverse out there that will replicate real life, and that's years away, maybe even decades, in a way that's meaningful, I think. But again, just imagine the possibilities in the future where you think about doing your online shopping, and one of the things I always say about doing online shopping is I'm not there, so I don't think to myself, oh, that looks really nice, I might have some of that, Well, imagine you're going through a supermarket, and it feels like you're there, and you are looking around all the shelves, and you're picking things off, but all you're doing is sticking them into a virtual basket, which you can then get delivered to your house. Meetings, again, you talk about, well, one of the issues about remote working is you don't feel like you're there in the room with people. You can't have a little chat by the water cooler or whatever it might be. Well, in the metaverse, you can walk around, you can interact, you can go for meetings, you can go for coffees, you can be anywhere at any time. And I think the future in terms of kind of social interactions on Web3, that's incredible, and I think again blockchain is a huge part of that. And you see what Facebook have been doing with Meta, I should say, what they've been doing. And they've already, like, the gears are already moving. You've seen they recently announced the ability to mint and sell NFTs on Instagram and Facebook. It's all coming. Yeah, I don't know if you heard about that one, but it's huge news. So it isn't long. It won't be long before NFTs are super mainstream, and the power that they bring as well. So I mean, there's just a few. There's so many different narratives going on in the cryptocurrency space, and clearly disruption of multiple different industries as well. So I mentioned earlier insurance. That's that will be disrupted. Banking will be disrupted. Even things like simple e-commerce. Again, can be disrupted by. And music, of course, huge disruption coming from music, but it's all super exciting. And going back to your earlier question about what made you want to go into cryptocurrency versus staying in traditional role, being at the forefront of that level of disruption and change it's so invigorating. It's incredible. There is such a wealth of opportunity. Now, with that, of course, comes risk. It's underdeveloped as a sector. It is a new frontier. It's not very well regulated at all, if at all. And so for that reason, I don't want to sit here and say that it's all, it's just a big gold rush and no one's getting hurt. There are protocols that are failing. There are instances of bad actors, etc. And that, unfortunately, is something that we saw in the early days of the internet as well. But what I'd say to people is, we look back now on the internet in the early days and we say, how did no one see how important this is going to be to our future? And people are sitting here now and going, blockchain is just a waste of time. There are too many instances of failures, or people using it for for the wrong reasons, etc., etc. It doesn't work very well. And again, I'm sitting here thinking, this is the internet circa 1992. Get on board now or regret it in 10 years' time, is all I can say.
Yeah, I think we're definitely on the same page with that one. I don't think I'd be involved with CryptOx at all if it wasn't for the same mentality. But let's assume that the people listening are aware that it's a high growth industry with so much potential.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Let's just assume that for now. For those young people who are very interested in a career in crypto, whether it be within a crypto company or tangentially via another company, are there any particular tips or piece of advice that you might give to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first of all, follow your passion, and there's so many amazing narratives in the space. If you're not sure about the future of technology or how it can be beneficial, think about something you're interested in, because there will almost certainly be projects out there that are looking to do some incredible things in that space. So, for example, if you're into artificial intelligence, for example, there's some amazing examples of blockchain companies out there looking to use blockchain with artificial intelligence, and it's really exciting, actually. That space. I won't claim to know that much about it, but from what I've read, it's there's some amazing opportunities there. So you certainly want to be getting into it, and obviously following this show is a good start. But there's other resources out there. There's a lot of documentation around it. But more than anything else, I would really just start diving into the community. That's what I learned about cryptocurrency the most. Follow a project you like, get into their community, talk to them, ask questions. They're really, the communities in cryptocurrency are like none I've ever seen. They're super passionate, super inviting and welcoming. They know that not everybody gets it, and they want people to get it. So they love answering questions and just giving you advice. So yeah, make sure to sort of immerse yourself really, and don't be scared. Try things out. Download a wallet. Buy yourself a small amount of Ethereum. Sort of, maybe do a simple transaction. Maybe buy a small NFT of some kind, or I say a small cheap NFT, just to see how it works. What does that transaction look like? Send it to another wallet. Understand kind of what it means to actually hold the keys to your finances. There are some risks involved, but once you understand how it works, it is quite simple. I would also say buy a ledger as soon as possible. I mean, I want to say a ledger, I mean a hardware wallet. I mean, other hardware wallets do exist, but I use a ledger. I actually have it here, if you know what one looks like. So it's a simple kind of hardware wallet or cold storage wallet, depending on how you want to call it. Make sure you've connected your soft wallet or hot wallet, I should say, to that to protect yourself, because that way it's much harder for anybody to hack you in any way or to scam you. And otherwise, of course, make sure that you're following companies you're interested in working for, because I can assure you they will be hiring. So Bondly, for example, we're looking to grow at a huge rate this year. Like many companies, we've had a huge amount of investment, and we have so much growth opportunity. We will be expanding our team, and we're looking for talented people across all different sectors and departments. So that's not just coding and development. It's in marketing, it's in operations, project management, product management, even in legal and finance and compliance. Any of these areas, there's a huge amount of opportunity in the space. So don't think that just because you're not a computer geek or a blockchain wizard, you're somehow not valuable. You absolutely are. I refer you back to the fact that less than 2 years ago, I had no idea about anything in this space, and I'm now CMO for a big blockchain and NFT business. So nothing's stopping you.
Okay, well, I'm aware that there's a hard stop that we're going to reach, so I'll end it there. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fascinating to hear about your experiences in your career and how coming from a sort of non-geeky background, you still managed to be at the forefront of what you might term the crypto revolution. And I very much look forward to hearing feedback from this and hearing what people's approach will be to starting their career in crypto, having followed on from this video, because as videos go, this has been definitely one of the best in terms of for people who might be from non-technical backgrounds and for people who are curious about the space but are still very much on the periphery. So thank you again for your time.
No, thank you, and yeah, by all means, if any of your community want to reach out, please do, and always happy to have a chat about what it means to be in this space. I'm keen to get as many people on board as possible.